Okay, so you remember Logan?
'Cause I don't like paying tax.
He put out a tweet the other day. We need to start charging a premium / setting strict guidelines on clients that want their tax return filed by 4/15. Charge a premium? File by April 15th? Make a plan? Don't just have them all extend? Have the rest of the year off? It actually kicked off a great discussion around enforcing deadlines on clients. What? Who do you think you are? So let's talk about this, whether we should enforce client deadlines. A few different ways to approach that, but first, should you have a fast lane? Should you let people pay extra to jump a line or to get their return done when they get you the info late? You certainly could. What Logan proposed here was just a higher fee for filing faster. Other companies do it. Uber, for example, famously charges for rides based on demand. Bunch of idle drivers, cheap ride. They get super busy, you're gonna pay a ton more. But here's where I think that kind of breaks down in a professional service firm. You still gotta do all the work. By offering a fast lane, you actually kind of lose control of the pipeline altogether. What if 10 people opted in next week? It's gonna be a busy week, big boy. To make matters worse, a premium can also kind of entitle the client to make unreasonable demands. Listen, bub, this is why I paid another $100, okay? Just get it done. I think as a rule, the more you can take back control of your work pipeline, how stuff comes in, the easier it is to build a calm firm. A firm where you minimize unexpected requests and you're able to proactively plan your capacity ahead of time. So let's talk about 3 different ways to set up client deadlines, pros and cons of each. First, the bring it in whenevs firm. This is maybe 90% of firms right now. Clients can bring that stuff in whenever they want, and we can totally probably maybe get it done within a reasonable amount of time depending on who else brought in their stuff, but this is kind of the default. The plan here is to not have a plan. You rely on things like when people brought stuff in the past, because that's actually reasonably consistent. So the pros here, you don't have anything you have to enforce on clients. It requires no work to do the planning, and this is the way we've always done it.
It's me.
Pardon?
The ghost of tax seasons past.
So what can I...
You said that's the way we've always done it.
Huh?
I visit people whenever they say that to remind them of their past mistakes.
I haven't made that mistake.
Easy for you to say YouTube boy.
Why are you here?
As a reminder to never rely on the way things used to be done.
Well, I'm gonna cruise through the cons here. If you're welcome to hang, if you want.
Sounds like a good time.
Okay, the downside of this approach, you just have no idea when people are gonna bring their stuff in. So you don't have a way to plan because you don't have any control over the intake.
Sigh.
Did you wanna jump in there?
You always say next year will be better.
I know, it's kind of a fun thing
But how can it get any better if it's outside your control?
Got it, okay. So take back control of the pipeline. Then at least it's your fault if you get it wrong.
It's your life.
Okay, second con, you can't really tell clients how long something will take because it depends on how much you've got in the queue. Maybe you're targeting a 3-week turnaround.
Wow.
Okay, maybe you're targeting a 4-week turnaround. You can't tell clients how long it will take because it depends on how long the queue is. And you're planning a 3-week queue, but the size of your queue, totally outside your control unless you control the timing of intake. Now let's talk about a second type of firm, one that sets very basic client deadlines. Are you just gonna hang?
Yeah, this bit's over. I'm gonna grab some lunch.
Okay, so second type of firm, Dr. Deadline. You're setting document deadlines for your clients in order to meet filing deadlines. So for example, if someone wants their return filed by 4/15, you could say they have to have all of their docs in by March 1, March 15, whatever makes sense. Now this is a huge step forward because it gives you a framework for client expectations. If my deadline is 3/1 and you bring me your stuff on 3/10, it's no longer on me. If I don't get the return done, it's because you gave it to me too late. You put those deadlines up for clients to see and understand, and it's entirely on them to meet those deadlines. Now, this really ought to go beyond tax deadlines. Maybe if they need an extension projection to make a payment, you need that info by 3/15 or 3/31. It's a great way to do some basic resource planning throughout your year. And again, the biggest upside is clients can't request things within an unreasonable time frame. But you still have to get the work done. If you tell them you'll get their return done by 4/15 if they get you the info by 3/1, you have to get the return done. And if you can't, in many ways, it's actually worse than what firm number 1's doing, who's just making no promises at all. We'll get to it, okay? We'll get to it, don't worry. It's just been a crazy year. So while this is a lot better for me, it still comes down to this. If it took you until October 15th to get all the tax returns done this year, and if next year all those same clients give you their info by March 1st, it's still gonna take you until October 15th to do the work. The same amount of work. The deadline doesn't change how long it takes you to do the work. So if, for example, a third of your clients got you their info by 3/1, and this year for the first time you say, hey, we hear you clients, we know you want your returns by 4/15, so this year, if you get us your info by 3/1, we'll make sure you get that return by 4/15. Let's say you make this push, and instead of a third of clients, this year 2/3 of your clients get you their stuff by 3/1. You're gonna get twice as many tax returns out by 4/15 now, are ya? Imagine if they even paid extra for it. Oh, you're gonna have a lot of salty sailors because you made a promise that is now impossible to keep because you still don't have control over how many people get you their stuff. You made a deadline, great, but nothing's stopping everybody from making a run on the bank at the same time. So I still think this is better than firm number one, to give clients deadlines for tax planning info, return info, all that. But what's to stop us from taking this to the next level? Hey, so real quick, you may notice that what all this is actually a capacity planning problem. The sort of thing a nice practice management system can help with. Like today's sponsor, Firm 360. One of the only PMs that combines project management with file management right there next to your projects and timekeeping. Hey, whether you're a timekeeping enthusiast or not, you can see all the projects that each of your team members has on their plates, project deadlines, and ensure you're still being realistic about what you can actually get out the door. You wanna track all that stuff in a spreadsheet? No, there's a tool for this. It's called Firm 360. Bye. Let's talk about a third type of firm, the scheduler, where you decide when the client brings their info in and when that work goes out the door. Jeez.
Hang on, we tried this before.
We did?
Yeah, everybody wanted their stuff in January.
Did they?
Yeah, and the ones who we pushed out all refinanced their mortgages and needed their tax returns in February.
Okay, yeah. So you're gonna get that. There are going to be flaws in the approach to scheduling, just like there are flaws in every other version of this.
Yes.
Do you mind?
Okay.
Scheduling your work will never be perfect. There will be people who 1 year want it because they're getting a new mortgage or have FAFSA or 100 other reasons why they need their tax return. But the fact that there will be exceptions is not a reason to have no plan at all. That's super important. I want to stress that. It's okay for your firm to have a system, a structure you want clients to adhere to, and it is also okay to flex that system and accommodate special requests. But the fact that there are exceptions does not mean you shouldn't have a system at all. That is madness. Because you know what? At the end of the day, who's best suited to design a system that will ensure a positive tax result for your client? Real quick, when you say positive, do you mean like positive like I'm gonna owe tax? Because last year, case in point, your client isn't the expert, you are. So design for them a yearly cycle that makes sense. Starts with tax planning in the fall. We get everything paid in, or they at least know how much they're underpaid. Takes the pressure off of filing season. And you can say, hey, we're gonna get you out the door in the month of July, and we want to get your info in by June. Now there's 100 flavors of how you could schedule this work out, and that intake deadline for the client, it's really just when you want the info by. If they want to give it to you in January, that's fine. You're just saying it needs to all be in by this date. Now this scheduling could be super granular down to the week. It could be simply chopping the filing season into 4 parts. If you're going out in this block, it means you need to have your info in by this time. And the result is you know how much work you're gonna have to do when. You can put it all on a calendar in January. Plan your life around it. Okay. I know not everyone's gonna be into this. Not gonna happen, think boy. Okay, so let's rapid fire through the counter arguments here. Okay, for one, my clients are not gonna follow directions. So I actually think we overestimate this one. There are those who won't, but much like the people who complain about pricing, the ones who won't take up kind of a disproportionate amount of space in your head. Most clients prefer a clear set of expectations. Those instructions are better than no instructions at all. Cool. And when the banker needs a tax return for a refi, yeah, plan this stuff out. So build in a buffer to each of those blocks so that you still have the capacity to pull people forward when you need to. Set the ground rules for what's allowable. How fast is the expected turnaround time in those situations? And just make some space for flexibility. Again, we're talking about the difference between no plan, a total free-for-all, and planning for the exception. Okay, but everyone will just want to go out in March. I think this is the case when we aren't actually doing tax planning. There's some great upsides to waiting to file. There's literally no advantage generally to filing earlier than later. After all, April's just the time that your tax payment is due. And especially if you're a business owner, you're usually better off waiting as long as you can to lock in any decisions you make with your return. Now, from an administrative standpoint, yes, it is great to have those returns done. But for me, I'm your tax advisor. I'm not gonna file your return because it feels good. I generally wanna wait as long as we can to file. in case something comes up. Profitability for next year looks different than this year. At the end of the day, it comes down to what I think is best. And if I don't see the advantage of rushing to file your return, that's it. I'm your tax advisor. Okay, so what do I do with the ones who just won't comply? It's your business. You get to make the rules. You know that breakfast place that's really good but closes at 11 every day? Yeah, I hate that shit. I bet if they stayed open through lunch, people would come eat lunch. I know I would.
I love that place.
But they don't, because they make the rules, not the customers. Now, I don't know about you. What we've done in the last few years hasn't felt very sustainable. Like when you took 16 weeks to get the tax returns done. Yeah.
Ha, I got him.
Okay. Making this whole thing more sustainable starts with taking back some control. Having a more explicit plan of what each month throughout the year is gonna look like. That's a thing that you can absolutely do. You can come into January and decide what you're doing for the rest of the year. If you don't, that's a choice. There's a balance there of like how much to lock in versus how much to leave kind of extra space for things. But finding that balance is up to you. And you can still be reasonable when it comes to exceptions. But at the end of the day, you're putting you and your team first, because none of this matters if you burn yourself out. Now, we've been talking about this a bunch in my accountant community. We run some live events where we share like how we do things like re-engage clients, put together a client communication plan at the end of the year, how to wrangle 1099s, how you collect tax info from your clients. Whole bunch of good stuff happening in there. If you struggle with that, like I do, honestly, check it out, could be helpful. So, what do you think? Are you controlling your pipeline or is it a bunch of malarkey? Let me know your plan in the comments. Let's share some ideas.